I'm sitting by, but show me like it'd be
Broadcast over this great nation. Anywhere over here is good. We can hear you here.
Okay, first off, I just want to thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Matthew Day. I am an ordained Anglican priest in the jurisdiction of armed forces and chaplaincy. And I've been assigned the responsibility by my bishop to head up his ministry of the Centurion Program. The Centurion Program is a ministry that is designed to work with individuals, particularly in the beginning, with military active duty or veterans who are struggling with moral injury. Okay, so what we try to do is try to help them understand the impact of moral injury, what's going on in life, and then help them in the recovery of that process. Let me start off with a bit of history, okay, so we can understand where we're coming from. I'm going to have to use this because it's pretty specific. Beginning with our involvement in World War I won't go back any farther. We've been involved in 8 major conflicts: World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf War, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Inherent Resolve, by those last 3. Thing goes on. We were also involved during this time period with 34 other conflicts and interventions, including Cuba, Haiti, Panama, Syria, Kosovo, and now to some extent the bombing of Iraq. So we have a history of 110 years of war. During that 110 years of war, we have sent our youngest sons and daughters into the fray. Okay. And while the military, well, a little bit more background. During World War II, the military discovered that only about 5% of the individuals that were sent into war actually shot. They would tend to shoot beside them, over their head, try to scare them off. Most of the deaths involved in World War II were due to bombing, howitzers, grenades, and random machine gun fire. Well, that disturbed our military leaders, and so they developed a program called reflexive shooting. That's instead of thinking and shooting, you shoot and then think. So what happens is when something pops up on that shoot. So what they've done in this period could on from 5% now in that freedom, in the enduring freedom and inherent resolve, 95% of our soldiers or sailors were firing. So what we've done is as a nation, we've developed a very lethal military force. But what we haven't done, we haven't prepared our sons and daughters for the emotional and psychological impact of killing someone. Okay, so we haven't done that. That's something we did. So why do I want to talk about moral injury? Well, first off, let me make it clear that moral injury is something that can happen not just to active duty or veterans. That's just because of their responsibilities happens to expose them more often to cross their boundaries. Moral injury can happen to anybody. Most common, they're veterans of the military, in first responders like police, firemen, also healthcare, paramedics, and others. But moral injury can occur to anyone. That's because we're all moral creatures. You know, we develop core values, what we call our morality, that define who we are. Okay. These values that we develop together in infancy, as we learn from mom and dad that it's a comfortable place, it's a trustworthy place, and we continue to learn as we grow from our family, from our community, our nation, our cultures. Okay. Now, moral injury itself is what occurs when we cross those moral boundaries, those things that define us. And that when we cross those boundaries, that creates what we would call a spiritual injury, soul, the wounding of the soul. It's not like post-traumatic stress. I would argue, I don't like to say PTSD, I think the disorder. Because in most cases, I don't think it's a disorder. In most cases, post-traumatic stress is a natural response, excuse me, to a life-threatening event, either real or perceived. It's a physiological response to the body, a response to the mind, psychological response. And we have ways to treat that. We have ways to help them cope with that. But moral injury is new on the scene. And I say new, about 10 years. Okay. And moral injury, it doesn't deal with our body or mind, it deals with our soul. It has to be dealt with on a different level. And that level most often is we think done, believe it should be done through church, through ministries like the Centurion Project. As I said, moral injury happens with crime. Let me offer some examples. The young man in Fallujah is clearing a house with his squad member. He comes around the corner and an individual pops out. They're in a very hostile place. Pops out, the guy flexibly. It's a 14-year-old without a fire. Okay. Out of the Marine Corps units that were interviewed, just less than 50% did not ever kill weapons. That means over 50% did. That crosses moral boundaries. For this judge, this was something that if he went home, people wouldn't understand the child. And it happens more frequent than not. Moral injury can be caused by something we do like that, or something we don't do, where other things. Over here in Iraq and Afghanistan, as we have columns of vehicles going through, the easiest way to assault, to ambush a column would be to stop. How do you stop? Try to front. Column stops, and the unit is ambushed. A lot of individuals are killed. So what do? You don't do something. They don't stop. You don't try. Well, it can also be caused not only by what we do or what we don't do, that we think we should do. It can be caused by betrayal. You might say, we either betray ourselves or somebody betrays us. That betrayal can be by someone who has a legitimate authority over us, a high stakes situation, that causes us to cross our boundaries. An example of this might be a young lady was told to be involved in an interrogation. They were interrogating this man, and he was naked. Now, for a Muslim to be seen by a woman, it's not good. And so at the end of the interrogation, after they took this blindfold so he could see. Plus the woman seeing what she was seeing out, her moral balance, what she had moral injury most often. They recognize it when you come home. And the reason for that is when you're over there in combat, all you're thinking about is staying alive. That should keep your bodies alive. So it comes back here now. The symptoms of a moral injury sometimes tend to wrap over post-traumatic stress. Like I said, they're not the same, but they tend to go together. But but the ones that are diagnostic for moral injury is how the person views themselves. They generally view themselves no longer as a good person that makes mistakes, but rather as an evil person, unworthy of forgiveness. Along with that, you get a sense they have a strong sense of guilt and shame. I'll give you another example of how someone develop moral injury by being betrayed by another. So you come home from combat and you get spit on, you get cursed, you get well, cursed by your own priest or pastor. Those are moral. What we try to do, is we try to provide them space, a safe space, a sacred space where they can come in and tell their stories without fear of judgment. One of our members, Wally Jensen, actually copyrighted Spray. He said, we led them our ears to get down. So we allow them the opportunity to tell their stories with other individuals who are struggling along with them, who have been in the same circumstances, and allow them to tell their stories and work through their injury again. For moral injury, the first thing that has to be done is they have to understand what's happening. They have to own it. Then once they own it, they tell their stories, and then we take them through. We help them through a process that allows them to find out and recovery. Like we do a program called Great Lifting, where they see things. And God works in a very powerful way. It's not a one-time cure. It goes on for a while. They have to deal with it. That's the way we can help, is to allow them to tell their story, to be able to say something like, you know, as a member of this nation sent you to war. I understand, I don't understand the impact of what you've gone through, but I'm willing to sit and listen as long as you need me to without judgment. Now, what's the worst thing we can say? Well, the war's over, get over it. That's the worst thing we can say. That does not validate the feelings, it does not validate the heart. Another thing that you don't want to say is I'm in the shame. We don't. We have no idea what they've done. The horror that they see or perpetrating. Another thing that most of us do, so that I think I need to change is when it's service. Thank you for your service. That gentleman or woman is still a 14-year-old. They don't want to be thanked for it. Okay. Better to say, welcome home, glad you're sick. So anyway, we try to help them work through those processes and find redemption, find hope. I also mentioned, I failed to mention that some of the symptoms are also guilt, tense, shame. They believe their own guilt. We try to help them discover the part and then connect them with other resources to help them with the journey forward. So they can move along and come to a new model. As a community and as a nation, we can help this simply by being a little bit more careful, but when we and a little less willing to send our young men and women into war. I spent 25 years. So, as a military member who has served this nation, I understand we're all willing. But the thing is, I think we should exhaust all other avenues before we take that time. Because again, we have not come up with a good way to prepare our children to kill and to deal with the intended. And it's that causes questions.
Well, this is really enlightening. I mean, it seems like we use the word PTSD a lot. Everybody's got PTSD. I work with a lot of veterans and a lot of PTSD. This makes more sense. Because it's not the PTSD diagnosis, it's the moral injury. This makes a lot of sense. So how do you, so how many people are involved in your organization? How are you getting this word out to other veterans?
Well, right now, what we try to do is we try to hold, the program that actually started in 2017 was interrupted by guess what? COVID. And the requirements of COVID. So it came back into place in 2023 with retreat, and now we were going to do another retreat, which has been going to do it in October, but we postponed here at Osage Beach, but we have postponed it because of circumstances. But so we try to do these retreats, but the other thing that I'm trying to make the program more than an event-based program. As an event-based program, we can deal with 20, 25 couples at the most. But what I like to do and what I want to see it turned into is not only do the events, but also become an educational resource for pastors and for priests and chaplains to learn learn what moral injury is and how to deal with it, and how to work with the members of the parishes. Pastors around here, I'm sure you have somebody in your church that has a moral injury, and they're struggling. Part of that struggle is the belief that if somebody knew what they did, that they would be judged. So what I do is I try to create those how to be there for them and not be judgmental. Instead, replace that judgment with curiosity. I don't understand what you do, but I'm willing to listen. And I understand that. The questions we ask were questions that we don't offer advice, like that. Offer them the opportunity to find their way out with the help of some of the religious activities. So, and also with you, the reason why we're post-traumatic stress has been around a long time was called battle fatigue and other things. It's also been misunderstood. If you've ever seen the movie Pat, see a guy threatened to kill a patient, is not wounded physically, but it's actually struggling with battle fatigue or that kind of PTSD or PTS, post-traumatic stress. And it's what we're more familiar with, and we tend to see it more because these are the individuals that have flashbacks. These are the individuals that have triggers that can cause them to do things that we wouldn't expect. Gun goes off, they go on the floor. Backfire of a car, they're on the floor. They have dreams and stuff like that, and what they tend to do is they tend to try to self-medicate for drugs or alcohol. They also tend to isolate themselves. Some of those things are similar with moral injuries. When they look at themselves, guilt, shame, loss of hope, and loss of trust. Not only trust in themselves, but for those times when they're betrayed by their superiors, trust in them and lack of trust in the nation and in the government. It's a big reason why they deal with the members of the military do not trust the government. Because they've been told that go over here, eliminate the weapons of mass destruction. That we're gonna do this, and they don't. So anyway, it's a new thing. It's just been recognized recently that there's other aspects to life besides post-traumatic stress. Other question?
Just something the Anglican Church is doing, this cross denomination.
Right now, it is what the jurisdiction of our forces is traveling. Okay, we have the ministry of my bishop, Bishop Eric Jones. Bishop Jones was an Air Force fighter pilot. Bishop Jones struggled with moral injury, post-traumatic stress. Well, we got the number because we do have chaplains in the Army, Air Force. And by the way, the Navy chaplain go with more. So we see we have a number of individuals within our own jurisdiction that are ordained and struggling. with those things. Moral injury also is a significant contributor. And I don't like to define people's moral injury this way, but true, moral injury is a significant contributor to death and suicide. Which we have a great number of. And by the way, Missouri has the highest rate of death and suicide. One of the highest in the nation and the highest of all central states. One thing we can't let them do, can't live by.
Comments for other race? Right, well, thank you.